I usually title these episodes something interesting or something that's or regarding what happened that week or something like that. I might title this one, "This is the week the wheels fell off." Feels like
Yep.
the wheels fell off this team.
Yep. That something definitely fell off.
Yep. Let's just go ahead. What were you going to say?
I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Um,
Mm.
as of right now, they are out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, that happened last night. Florida won, beat Detroit. I think it was 5-2. I was watching that game at the same time we were watching Ottawa. And yep, that happened. And there's a lot of games tonight that could affect our position as well. I believe Florida's playing again. New York's playing. There's a lot. Ottawa's playing. Washington's playing. New York, Carolina, Florida, Philly, New Jersey, Senators, and the Rangers, or the Islanders and the Rangers. They're all playing. It's a Metro night, except for Pittsburgh.
12 games left is what the Penguins have. 12. And they are not in, as of right now, not in the playoffs. Wow. Wow.
We did kind of predict this.
You did. A wise woman once said the Penguins are not making the playoffs.
It's
And
not that
I said, "Oh, you're crazy. Of course
yeah,
they are."
yes, you did say that. It's still possible. It is still possible, but regardless, it's going to be a difficult round for them if they do make it. But I know there's magic in this team. I see it. I think I might be the only one that sees it because Sullivan isn't seeing it and he's not utilizing his bench properly. And I'm just getting frustrated with the same answers. Like I started watching interviews again and like to see how the players are. And I know it's all, nonsense, whatever they speak. It's like they're speaking off a
Speaking
script.
cliches and they seek it speaking
Yeah.
media.
But one thing I wanted to talk about before we got into each game is something that I hear a lot of the players say, and it drives me nuts. This playing desperate hockey. Desperate hockey is not playing to your strength. You are scrambled, you're not thinking straight, and you make more mistakes. And at the end of this, when we cover errors, you'll see how right I am in this area. We need this team to play motivated hockey so that they know what they're up against and their minds are clear. This desperate stuff isn't working, and I've been saying this for years. Desperate does not equal strength. Okay? Motivated. Let's play motivated. You're playing desperate, you get sloppy, you're rushed, and it's ugly. And yeah, I don't want to hear another player say we got to play desperate. No, stop playing that way. Start playing the way you know how. Anyways, let's get into it.
I don't know anything, but it seems like in hockey and other sports, when one player tries to do everything, that's when it all goes wrong. That player tries to do too much or doesn't do what they're supposed to do, and it messes everything up.
I mean, sure, but aside from maybe Zucker, I don't see anyone else trying to do everything. Like, I mean, Sydney has some good nights, but mostly not so good nights. Gino is an error machine. I don't know, man. This team, like we've been talking about it all season, this team lacks a heartbeat. It does not have a identity. It's just been, hit and miss all season. And I mean, our last 4 games we're about to cover, we lost all 4.
We've we've been saying this all season. There's something missing on this team. There's something wrong. The way it's constructed, it's just not right. It's missing
Right.
something.
Well, above and beyond, it's missing chemistry. And I watch a lot of people talk about how the top two lines are great. They're not, though. Like, they're absolutely not great because Sullivan won't find and stick to a lineup. Now, granted, I know we've had some injuries, but not to our core. We've been pretty lucky with our core players. And I really think that it's time for Sullivan to step out of his comfort zone and try anything because I don't know if you've seen my tweet from last night. Like I just had enough. And it's like I can't keep watching them do the same things over and over again. You cannot find chemistry unless you work together for an extended period of time. You might hit some magic here and there, but it's not going to stay. It's not going to last. And we know this team shines through adversity. They don't shine through adversity anymore.
We have a lot to say about Sullivan, but we will get to that. So let's talk about these games. Because the last time we talked was last Monday, and in that time they've played 4 games, and as you've said, they've lost 4 games. Let's start with Tuesday the 14th at home against Montreal. Starts with a 2-0 lead.
Oh,
Looks
no,
like a blowout.
let's start right from the beginning. Jake scores 21 seconds into the game. Looks like we're gonna this is what we want to see from our boys. Then Gino scores on the power play, and then it just
let's see. Jari gave up, I believe, 4 goals on 7 shots. He was pulled.
Correct.
They also did a wonderful thing that they've been doing all year. I didn't start the bingo card, but it would have been almost filled. I think this game inspired the bingo card. They got okay, so Gensel scores at, as you say, 21 seconds in, and then at 4:49 in the first period, Malkin scores 2-0. 40 seconds later, Mike Hoffman scores. Give up a goal right after you score a goal. Then in the first period, and then Montreal scores again, and then they score again, and then they score again at 19:49 of the first period. Of the first period. Again, last minute of the period. Another thing they've done over and over again. If they're not scoring, if they're not giving up a goal right after they score one, and if they're not scoring a goal if they're not giving up a goal at the last minute of the period, they are giving up third period goals. And that's why they're in the position they're at. That's why they're not in the playoffs. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, we went into this game. Montreal was in 28th place with only 26 wins. So we're going into this thinking, okay, this is going to be a cakewalk. Now, I think we always do our predictions. And I said that out of the 3 games, so we didn't include last night's game when we talked about it, I said I'm thinking 2-1. But then during this game, we were talking, we always do during the games. And I said, if we were losing, I said, if we lose this game, we're going to go lose all 3. This is a momentum that this team fails to, capitalize on. They let the negative effect kind of draw them out. It's bad. It's so bad. There's no chemistry on this team. You know what really hurt me? Mike Matheson. What a miss.
Horrible trade.
He was phenomenal in that game. And you know what? Montreal looked better than us. Like they just looked more connected. They were fast. They were in sync. Sure, they're not having the greatest season, but younger teams tend to take some time. The only good thing that came out of this game was our boy Gremlin Gremlin for
Gremlin.
the viewers. I've nicknamed him Gremlin because of the captions on these things. He went 12 for 12 on the face-offs, which was like delightful. It was like, okay, so Carter's not our only good face-off man. Now we've got two, but then he kind of dropped off in the following games. This team is just, it's just really disconnected. You do not see passionate, motivated play. You see scrambled play and desperate play. And desperate play does not win hockey games. I don't care who you are. It does not win hockey games. It's going to be the theme of this episode. But yeah, I mean, Jari was still playing hurt. You can see it. He does a big save. You can see how he's recovering from, like, stretching his body out and stuff. You can see the pain. Yeah.
Wait, on who? On Jari?
Yeah, whenever Jari makes, because he had a couple good saves last night, like big saves, and you could see how, like, when he stretches his body out, his recovery, like, he's kind of almost like slower to get back into his position. That indicates to me that he's hurt. One of the things I do is I study players to see if they're hurt, and opposing teams also do that, and they also take advantage of you when you're down and out, and when you're playing desperate. That you're just like the prey, and the opposing team becomes the predator. Yeah.
After the game, Sullivan was asked if Jari, who has dealt with multiple injuries this season, including a hip problem, is still dealing with lingering aspects. Quote, he's fine from a health standpoint, Sullivan said. We're trying to get him up to speed here on the fly, and it's a bit of a challenge. We're working on it, trying to get him reps in practice. We're doing our best out there. Sullivan was reminded that the playoffs begin in a month and that it's probably not ideal for his number one goaltender to be in that kind of form. He said, quote, it is what it is. What the actual heck are we doing here?
I don't even know how Sullivan's still employed by this team. He after 2 back-to-back cups, he couldn't even get through the first round with this team for 5, now going on 6 years probably. Yeah, it's really, really bizarre to me, and it's definite that Sullivan's lost this room. He does not have these players. So it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating as a coach, because you see what needs to be done, and you see it not being done by a professional. It's not like one of those armchair, Twitter coaches. Like, I literally have studied this game for 3 decades since I was a kid. And watching Sullivan, like, people are complaining about Hextall. Hextall can only do so much, right? It's the players on the ice and the coach behind the bench that have more of the hand in the play of the game. And Sullivan is hurting this team. He's not doing his job, and it's enough's enough. And you know what, though? I do agree with him sometimes, and not all the time, what he says. But in this case, it is what it is. That's a terrible attitude.
I think, and you can see that Jari, you just gave evidence right there that Jari is clearly still hurt, and Sullivan says he's fine from a health standpoint. We're trying to get him up to speed here on the fly, and it's a bit of a challenge. What the heck? So you throw him out there when he's not ready, physically or mentally or whatever the heck's going on, and you're costing your team games. Get him more practice. Get him games in Wilkes-Barre if he needs this. If he needs to practice. If he needs game conditions, don't throw him out there on a vital game where you're fighting for your playoff lives.
It's ridiculous. And I mean, Casey's gotten a lot of slack, but he's also been really, really good for us. And relying more on him probably would have been more wise, in the sense that Casey seems to get better the more he plays. Sure, he's let up some big goals. All goalies do. And you're only as good as your worst player. And like 96% of our roster is just not doing it. So
and yet there are people that say Well, that's all the players Sullivan has to deal with. It's not his fault. He's just dealing with the players he's dealt with. What do you want him to do? Really? Listen to this podcast for the last 6 months. We've been saying the same thing over and over again of all of his problems.
Yeah, he just needs to reorganize his lineup. I'm telling you, you've got it's like a puzzle. When you look at a roster, it's a puzzle of pieces. And you want to find what pieces fit together best. You look for a strength in each player and a weakness in each player. And you don't want to have 3 players on the same line with the same weaknesses. You know what I mean? You want to have them scrambled so that the one player with a strength offsets that other player on that line with the weakness, pulls that player up. You cannot we've said this before, you cannot win hockey games with 1 or 2 good lines. You need 4, and they don't have to be the best lines. They just need to be connected and complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. And we don't see that. We see Sullivan going through I just scratch my head. I'm like, this is, and the most frustrating part is, we're squandering the remainder, the last few seasons of, the Pittsburgh Big Three or whatever it's called down there. It's frustrating. It's so frustrating. Yeah, I've had enough. I want to talk for a second about the Montreal game and our errors, because we had 27 errors in total, only 9 turnovers, which was actually not bad. Gino had 2 of them, but he did have a goal and assist, so he gets a pass. Patterson had 7 total errors. We had 1 turnover and 6 missed shots. 2 came in one shift, and 4 of those missed shots came in the second shift. And that was the worst night for Patterson. And then you've got Rust, Sydney, and Letang with 3 errors each, which isn't the worst, and when we're done all 4 games, wait till I tell you these totals. It's not good.
Yeah. Also, Jeff Carter in this game was -4, and he only had 13 shifts. He played less than 9 minutes and was -4. Plus minus is a stupid statistic, but wow.
That's another knock at Sullivan. You're not bringing the best out of your players. Jeff Carter is not a terrible hockey player. In fact, he was a great hockey player. You don't just forget that. You get lazy, you get set into your ways. And of course, age is a factor. But he's only 30, what is he, 38, 37, 36? He's not even that old, and he's in great shape. He can be doing better. And that's on him. And that's also on Sullivan. And it's also on the rest of the team and your captain. Get in there, talk to your players, just give me this team finally, please.
Yeah, this was bad. So then they begin their
trip to New
New York trip. First, I've never seen 2 games in 3 nights against the same team at their place. I've never seen this scheduling quirk, but it is, as Sullivan would say, it is what it is. Thursday, the 16th, Rangers 4, Penguins 2. Really, it didn't seem like the Penguins were ever in this. This seemed like a very boring game, I don't know. But at no point did it seem like the Penguins were actually in it. It was closer. The score made it look closer than it was, but really they weren't in this.
2 things on this game. First of all, the Rangers had 24 total giveaways. Now that would indicate, some sloppy play, this, that, and the other, but they still managed to beat us. Only goes to show how disconnected we are, because we should be capitalizing on those giveaways, right? It's now our puck. It's in our possession. Why aren't we doing anything with it? Another thing I've noticed in this game was Joseph needs some better mentality training. He's kind of gotten off of his focus, and that can be rebrought to him. There's a lot of pressure on him, one of the younger players on the team. He definitely needs some working with his, his mentality and his confidence. And that's really easy fixed. But it's been tough watching his fall. He's too young to be having this fall. This team is the problem. It's not so much him, it's just a collective that's happening. And it's not just him too. Other players are, falling apart at the seams too. But when it's one of your young guns, you really got to capitalize, get on that early, or you could lose them completely.
Lots of criticism on P.O. Joseph right now. I'm hearing a lot of just people not happy with him. Yeah, he has really fallen off recently.
Yeah.
This game was actually 2-2 in the third period. Jake scored at 9:09 in the third period to make it 2-2, and then Chris Kreider gets activated. He scores 2 minutes and 36 seconds later. So good job, Penguins, not giving up a goal 1 minute after you score one, but only giving up a goal 2 minutes. Good job, progress. Woo!
I'm actually mad at myself because I made a bet with someone that Kreider was going to score the game-winning goal, and I only said that like facetiously, like I didn't even mean it. I don't like Chris Kreider, never have. And I don't know why I picked that name. And when he scored, I was just like, oh Lord, have mercy on my soul right now. I didn't want to be right. I thought like I was I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not picking who's winning, even though I still tend to be right.
He's a Penguins killer. It seems like he scores a lot of goals against Penguins. Yeah, you should maybe have a gambling. We should do a gambling segment or something like that.
I know. That's kind of scary. Actually.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. There's really not much to say about this game. It was just. I mean, yeah. Okay, it was close, but then. It just didn't seem like really. It just seemed like it was a foregone conclusion that the Rangers were going to win. I don't know.
Yeah.
And oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
And this killed their chances of catching the Rangers for third in the Metro. This killed them. They could have done it. They could have, at one point they were like 6 points behind. They could have done it, and then they would have played probably the Devils. Now they're stuck if they make the playoffs playing the Bruins or Carolina. Great.
Okay, so in this game, the first one of two in New York, we had 26 errors, 14 turnovers, and 12 missed shots. Our biggest error makers, and I don't like using the word mistakes because it's only a mistake once. If you do it twice, it's no longer a mistake, it's a choice. So these players aren't choosing to clean up their shooting. They're not choosing to, be more connected and communicate on the ice so that we're not turning over the puck. Excuse me. We've got our big guns here and I hate to say it, but Zucker and Dumoulin had 4 errors each. And then we have Joseph, Pettersson, and Letang with 3 each. One player that's actually cleaned up his game the most is Sydney, believe it or not. And actually, at the end of the 4 games, when I go over total turnovers and missed shots, I do a breakdown of each player in those 4 games, how many they had in total. These numbers are going to blow your mind. They're going to disgust you, actually. So, yeah. So, New York, game 2.
Game 2 on Saturday. 6-0.
I forgot about that.
6-0. A complete destruction. Was Jari pulled again in this game too? He was pulled again.
He was pulled after Kreider's goal in the second period.
Yeah. Pulled again. So Jari only gave up 4 goals on 17 shots. The Smith gave up 2 goals on 7 shots. This was a complete and total destruction.
Yeah, it was meltdown. They melted down. It was just brutal.
Was this the game where? Yeah, it had to be. This had okay. So after the game, Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports asked the question of Sullivan. He said, "This is kind of low-hanging fruit, and I ask this respectfully, but Jeff Carter and Brian Dumoulin have been on the ice for a lot of goals against for a while now, including a couple pretty big mistakes in the first period. What are you seeing that keeps them in the lineup? Sullivan says, you guys like to pick on certain guys and you go to them all the time. We respectfully disagree with you in a lot of circumstances. When goals are scored, we look at a lot of the details on the hows and the whys. The reality is it's more than one person. For the most part, when goals end up in the back of your nets. So I think those are easy guys to pick on. But I will tell you that what I will tell you is all year long we put them in difficult circumstances. Those guys play against top players in defensive situations all the time. Cart's going in tonight's game is 6th in the league in face-off percentage. 6th overall. He emphasized that. 6th in the whole league.
And that is important. Very,
hey, Sullivan,
very...
are you watching? Are you watching this podcast or something? He wins a lot of face-offs. When we win a face-off, we don't gain the blue line. There are a number of circumstances that are involved here. It's not just any one guy. So what I would say to you guys is it's easy for you to pick on one or two guys, and I will tell you that I respectfully disagree with all of you. Are we making some mistakes? Sure, but when you get put in those situations, as often as those guys do, there was a stretch of 20 games leading up to the last where they were doing a pretty admirable job in the same circumstance. So I understand your question, but I think the answer to the question is a little bit deeper than just scratching the surface like you guys do. It's never any one guy's fault when those things happen. It's a team game out there. There's 6 guys on the ice. It's all those guys' responsibility to execute, and we didn't do it in certain situations.
And I 100% stand by Sullivan's comments on that. He is absolutely right. When I look at these players and I say, okay, so Carter isn't so good offensively or defensively for that matter, but he is our face-off specialist. We need him. We need him for difficult moments to make sure we get that face-off win. And that is so important. I'm okay with Carter being a 4th line center, getting minimal ice time, but brought on for that. You know what? I totally support it. We need him. As for Dumoulin, lots of pressure on that poor boy. And he sometimes has some rough games, but he's not our biggest mistakes. I'll use Sullivan's word, mistake makers. He is not. His game is actually far more cleaner than some of our big guns. So I completely understand where Sullivan's coming, and this is what drives me crazy with Penn's Twitter, is because they all repeat each other, and it's like none of them actually take time to know what they're talking about. It's frustrating. I'm not going to get into that today, but what Sullivan said was 100% correct. Every player on the team plays a role, and it's a collective. It's a team effort. So people that don't quite understand the game and maybe have never played it or just casually watch it, they're not going to understand that. They're thinking, oh, these are all stars, they're paid millions of dollars, they should be on every single night. Well, there's a lot of factors that play into that. And I wish fans would have more of an understanding with regards to that, because, if any of these players are on, scrolling around on social media and seeing all this, that's going to get in their head and it's going to throw them off too. Fans need to be a little bit more supportive. I understand their frustrations. Trust me, I'm quite frustrated myself, but at the end of the day, if you're a fan, you're in for the wins and you're in for the losses. It's just no one side. You know what I mean?
I am trying to find out what his face-off percentage has been lately. I can't find that information. But anyway,
he's been great. I think last night he went 100. I could keep track of it, but
Penguins, Twitter, the media, maybe fans are like piranhas.
I don't even think most of the media know what they're talking about, and that's no offense. I know,
but they all do one thing. They find one thing,
a target,
and they all go to it. They all attack it. Someone says, well, Jeff Carter's bad. Oh, it's all Jeff Carter's fault. Well, Dumoulin messed up. Oh, it's all Dumoulin's fault. It's all Hextall's fault. It's all Sullivan's fault. Oh my God. It's everybody. It's all the same thing after every game. It's all a group collective, and this mob mentality of, oh, somebody says it and they must know what they're talking about. So we're all going to say it and we're all going to just attack the same thing.
Yeah, it's like they can't think for themselves. Like, and aside from that, a small percentage of players or of people that actually think outside the box, like yourself, myself. I'll be honest, I have most of Penn's Twitter muted because it's like so frustrating because I feel attacked when my players are attacked and I want to go to war with these fans. And then I take a step back and I'm like, hold on, this is just Twitter, Jen. This doesn't matter. Save your thoughts. You know what I mean? Like,
You're
it's
absolutely right.
frustrating.
It doesn't matter. It's just Twitter. That is the best thing ever. It's not real.
It's not. And
It's
it's
not real.
like it's fun. That's the reason I went to Twitter, was to talk hockey, but I've yet to find it.
And this is from the mayor of Twitter. This is who's the best Twitter account in Pittsburgh. I'm
Yeah,
telling you, that doesn't matter.
nope, doesn't matter. Um,
Good.
yeah, just going into this 6-0 game. Sydney had 0 shots on goal. Sydney wasn't playing. There was a point where they went on, because I see people comment, oh, Sydney and Malkin are playing brilliant hockey. And I'm like, no, they're not. They have moments and they're more than capable to be phenomenal, but something's missing. I didn't like the lineup. The rest on with Gino and Zucker, no good. Get that out of there. Launch it to the moon. I never want to see that again. But we need to have the players playing. Why is my nose so itchy? Playing to their potential every night, regardless is where you are. You need to play your position, and we're not seeing that every night. I'm not, anyways. And in this game, we had a total of 24 errors, and we had Gino and Gensel with 4 each. And then we had Rust and Raquel with 3 each. So, there's our top 2 lines. They're flawless. They're the best, says media. But they're really not. They're not. They could be better. They could be organized better. So yeah, frustrating. 9 turnovers, 15 missed shots, and 24 errors. So the least amount of the last 3 or the prior 2. But still, if you don't show up to play, you're not going to win. If you don't put that puck on the net, you're not going to score goals. And I'm pretty sure Sydney knows what it takes. He won the Rocket Richard, twice in his career? One actually in the last few years. What a highlight that was. But, when you're beat mentally, you're not going to win. And we need to see a little bit more from Sydney. I'd really like to see that.
One thing we haven't talked about is basically 66% of the defense is gone.
It's not really a bad thing. I'm okay with it. Didn't like Dumoulin and Petrie playing together. Didn't like. I mean, Ruhwedel's back, but I mean, Pettersson's now gone.
Pettersson's gone. Kulikov is out. Petrie is out. I think that's it. Yeah. And somebody else hasn't been playing. It's basically so right now the defense is P.O. Joseph and Letang.
Oh, Ruda.
Well, yeah, Ruda's out too. I'm sorry. Yeah. P.O. Joseph and Letang, Dumoulin and Ruhwedel, and Mark Friedman and Taylor Fadoon. Ty Smith unfortunately has a facial fracture, so he's out. Like there are defensemen in Wilkes-Barre that are also injured. So just really bad injury luck. But maybe that's not the worst.
This is something that we need, though. Okay, because you brought back Ruhwedel, who hasn't been getting all the ice time. That should fire him up. You brought back Friedman. That should fire him up. Fadoon's up. He should be raring to go. I'm so sorry. I'm having an allergy attack. I'm getting so fired up. My nose is like burning off. This is a time, like, Sullivan took a risk here. He played Joseph up with Tanger on the first pairing. I don't know how much of that actually happened through the game, because Sullivan has this thing where he doesn't like being consistent. I wonder why the team isn't. Anyways, play around with that, because you know what? I think I have more confidence in the 6 we had last night than I do the other ones, because I don't think they were working for us. And like I said, the players that don't play the most, they have more incentive to play, so they can play more. You understand what I'm saying? So
you want to hear a joke?
Yes.
Look at Kasperi Kapanen's
saw.
Stats.
I saw.
He has 4 goals in the last 10 games.
Now, if that's with a pretty like subpar team in St. Louis, I think that is a huge wake up call with regards to the problem that lies in Pittsburgh. This Sullivan is not running his bench. He is not bringing the best out of his players. We see it every night. We're seeing it on the score sheet. And Kapanen just proved it. Kapanen was a heck of a hockey player when he wants to be. He's now in a position where he can shine. It's frustrating, and it's like, like, okay, you know what, we got to move past the players we've lost. They're gone. Crying about them is not going to help us, right? Not saying you were crying about Kapanen. I'm the one crying, actually.
I just thought it was so funny when I saw
it's an
that.
indication that it's literal evidence that what is happening in Pittsburgh is affecting our players. We're bringing them down. So when people complain about Casey or Brian Dumoulin, it's like, well, let's look at the big picture here.
If Kapanen goes and succeeds somewhere else, that is a major that is just a huge whatever you want to call it, huge blemish on the Penguins.
Huge.
That look at McCann. McCann didn't do so well here, and he's blown it up in Seattle. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that was a bad judgment call by Hextall. We know that was Hextall, right? Yeah,
that was Hextall. Yeah.
Him and Burke, I think, are gone at the end of the season. I know we just re-signed Sullivan, extended Sullivan for 3 years. Either Sullivan stays and he clears out his assistant coaches and brings in someone that can do a better job. Yeah. So that's the only reason I see Sullivan staying, but goodness gracious.
Hextall needs to be fired the second the season is over.
He should have been fired the day after the trade
deadline. Yeah. I do not want to see that guy overseeing this offseason. No. Enough with the old people. Enough with trading 28-year-old Matheson for 35-year-old Petrie or however old they are. No, enough with trading for 31-year-old Gremlin. Enough. Bring young people into here.
Yeah, it's really important. It's really important because this team is just going to falter in the next 2-3 years. We still have Sidney, Gino, and Letang. Like, they're getting older. But our team needs to get a bit younger.
This has been called the second worst team in Crosby's career. The first was his rookie year when Mario was still around and had that really crappy team. So this is the second worst team out of the last 17, 18 years.
18. So you know what? This team isn't even that bad. Like I said, there is magic here. They're just not being motivated, and they're not being handled properly by Sullivan. We see flashes of it. We see this team dominate in some instances, but they've lost they've got no mentality. They've got no, winner's mentality. And that can be brought out because every single player on this team is a winner in my book. Right. So it just really comes down to, I'm so sorry about my nose today. This is so embarrassing.
You're fine. It's
so itchy. I just want to scratch it. I think I'm going to sound crazy, but I could take this team to the Stanley Cup final. You just really got to work with your players. You got to work with them. You can't have 15-minute practices or calling off practices. You have to practice more. If you're not playing as well, you need to be practicing more. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. So on to Monday, March 20th in Pittsburgh against Ottawa, an absolute must-win game. So, of course, they lose. They lost 2-1, which puts them out of the playoff spot. Now, this is basically what what?
I'm just laughing because when we were talking last night during the game, I'm like, this is painful. I'm like, they look like scrambled eggs. I'm like, whoever scores first will win the game. And then like 3 minutes later, you're like, uh-oh. And I hadn't seen the goal yet because I stream it, right? So I'm delayed and I'm like, what? And then they scored and I'm like, oh man, shut your mouth, Jennifer. Stop talking.
This was called an unlucky loss. They actually played pretty well.
Very
It
well.
just didn't happen, and it happens. You have games like this, but the problem is when you lose to bad teams like Montreal and who in Anaheim and Vancouver and all those other situations, then losses like this really hurts. And when you
Oh,
lose 2-1, it just really hurts.
they lost to Dylan Ferguson. Now this was Dylan. That
First
was Ottawa.
game.
That's his first game of this season. It's his second career season or second career game. But he saved 47 shots. He stopped 47 shots out of 48. And I think Ottawa went around 18 shots in total. I can't remember. I stopped. I gave up on this one.
Very few shots Ottawa had. That was one thing. It's like, well, Jari played well. It's like he really wasn't tested though. It was all the Penguins were dominating.
Huge. They were everything. They were scrambled and very disconnected, but it did have a playoff feel. This was not that desperate play. They were playing more motivated, but the lack of chemistry is a huge problem. And I'm gonna
know what they didn't have. Yes, you have a lot of shots, but they weren't a lot of contested
quality
shots. People weren't going to the net. There was not a lot of net front presence, so they were easy shots.
Yeah, no, you need to have quality shots. It's really important. If you're going to put the puck on, you got to make sure sometimes you got to take that extra half a second and make sure you line yourself up, because just whipping the puck at the net, I mean, without any power on it, it's easy for the goalie to stop.
Yeah.
And then
so
why was Nylander out? Do you know why he was removed?
Because he's young. Game? Because he's young. That's why you can't have Sullivan doesn't like young people. The bottom six was Heinen, Paling is now your third line center. Heinen, Paling, and Gremlin. And then the fourth line is O'Connor, Jeff Carter, and Archibald.
Yeah. No, I would have gone Heinen, Carter, Archibald, O'Connor, Gremlin, Paling, or switch whatever. Gremlin's better on the faceoff than Paling. You need bigger bodies and more experienced bodies in the center. Period. But I really want Rust off the top. I want him down. I want to kind of bleed some goodness, because Rust isn't bad. He's a bad player. He's not playing as good as he can. He is so sloppy lately. But I think a change would be good for him.
He's just not having a good year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's just not having a good year. So Shabbat of Montreal of Ottawa scores at 16:46 in the first period. No goals in the second period. Ricard Raquel scores at 14:39 of the third period. We're tied 1-1. We're getting a point out of this at least. Yes, we need that point. We're going to overtime.
And we take a penalty.
And then Ruedel takes a penalty, which just is a killer. During the ensuing shorthanded situation, Rust failed to make a clearing attempt. Then he gets injured blocking a shot. Paling loses a stick, and they score. And it was all Dumoulin's fault, according to Penguins Twitter.
Yeah, no, definitely not Dumoulin's fault. This is Mike Sullivan's fault. There's no connection. This team does not believe in each other. They do not have that family team mentality. It is just a slop show, and it's exhausting. And
clear the puck, dude. Just clear the puck. What are you doing?
What's happening?
Clear the puck.
I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
Well,
You're fine.
I don't know. My nose feels like it can fall off. I have really bad allergies, and I guess the second day of spring.
You're allergic. You're allergic to sloppy hockey play. That's a problem. We're talking about the Penguins.
So yeah, in last night's game, we had 19 turnovers. 5 from Gino, 4 from Letang, 3 from Zucker, 2 from Jari, and those are the worst. It was brutal. 32 errors in total, 13 missed shots. We have Gino and Letang in first with 5 errors each. We have Rust with 4 errors each, 3 of those being missed shots because he's got to tighten up his shooting. Rust, Brian, you need to tighten up your shooting so desperately. And then we have Zucker and Gensel with 3 points, 3 errors each. So again, our top 2, like top 2 lines. And then our defense, I honestly can't get mad at Letang because he plays with so much heart. He gets a little sloppy and ahead of himself, but I think he's one of our hardest working players on the ice.
He played 29.5 minutes.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. He's been phenomenal. He's gonna get tired. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it was just, I kind of go easy on Letang because he shows the most heart out of all our players. Like Gino could be non-existent. Sydney can be non-existent. He was better on the face-offs last night, sure, but then he had no errors, but he only had 2 shots on goal, and I didn't really feel his heart was in it. He wasn't really playing, the way we know him and love him to play.
Here's a crazy idea. Why not put Granlund on that first line and move Rust down to the third line?
No. We could put anyone up. We could put O'Connor up. We could put Paling up. We could put Heinen up. We could put Archibald up. We could put Nylander up. We could, call the Leafs and ask for the other Nylander because that would just, mama. So I don't know if you know, but William Nylander is my favorite player in the Leafs since Joe Thornton hasn't retired but isn't playing. I had to pick a new one, and I've loved Nylander since he played junior. Anyways, yeah, there's so many possibilities that they can do with this lineup. We're just not seeing it. Sullivan's stubborn. That's it. Chemistry, no chemistry, no chemistry. It's just like it's exhausting. It's the same thing over and over again.
Sullivan would rather be stubborn than win games.
It
sure as heck seems that way. It sure as heck seems that way.
And then he's a little attitude and argumentative in his post. What are they called?
Post game press conference.
Yeah. Like that one time I was 100% with him, but other times, like, it is what it is. Like, no, bro.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So looking at this week. Let me go over. I'm sorry. Total. Yeah. Go over total.
So this is okay. Are you sitting down? Okay.
I am sitting down.
So we had a total of 109 errors
in 4 games. Okay. So
51 turnovers and 58 missed shots. I'm going to just quickly go over each the main guys, and then I'm going to do a total for everyone. Okay. So Gino and Letang had 9 turnovers each in those 4 games. Zucker had 6 and Rust had 5. That's as far as I went. There was a couple 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s, whatever. Sydney had 1 turnover. Like I said, Sydney's been cleaning up his game, but I would rather you make more mistakes, Sydney, than not try. Yeah. Anyways, missed shots 58. We have Pettersson in total in first with 9. To be fair, 6 of those came from one period. Second, we've got Rust and Gensel with 7. They should never be on the same line ever again. For that reason alone, not for the fact that there's no chemistry. You can't have that many errors on one line. And in third, we've got Raquel with 6. Now, sorry again, I'm such a mess. I did a total because this is the most errors we've had in 4 games. Letang had a total of 13. Rust, Pettersson, and Gino had a total of 12. Zucker had 11. Gensel had 10. Raquel had 9. Sydney only had 4. But again, I want to see him play rather than be worried about the mistakes he's making. Make all the mistakes you want. Just get your heart into that game. Get your head into the game. Anyways, so now we're at a total of 1,571 errors on the season, which works out to about 22 per game. So we're consistent there.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Okay, moving ahead. You said.
Moving ahead. So this week, the rest of this week, on Wednesday, they're at Colorado, and then Thursday at Dallas. I don't know my geography that well, but Colorado and Dallas aren't that close together.
Mm, it can't be more than a 2-hour flight.
Good question. I would like
I
to
would know.
find
I've
out.
never done that. Like,
And then home to Washington on Saturday.
so we'll beat Washington, maybe Colorado, but I don't think we'll beat Dallas. Or we're just going to go 0-3 again. But I really think that we're going to see a different team. I think they're going to, have this day to reflect and be like, we're better than this, because they are better than this. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-1, 2 wins, 1 loss.
I'm going 1-2, and that I don't even know about that. I mean, they can't go 0-7. They just can't, lose 7 games in a row, right? Because they've never done that this year, except for several times.
I'm like, wait a minute. Let me check them out. Listen, I'm going to say this one more time because I don't know who's watching these, but hopefully someone is. Maybe it's Sullivan. Seems to be quoting me lately. Get rid of the desperate play. Get rid of that mentality. Play focused, motivated hockey, inspired hockey. Do what you do best and spread it to every player on this team, because you guys are more than capable. And I know you're more than willing. So get over whatever happened in the past and start tomorrow as a new day. You've got 12 games left. Am I right? 12? 12
Yes.
games left. Let's win them all. Let's win them all.
They have never been this far out of the playoffs this late into the season. We've said this a million times. It's a wake-up call. It's gut check time, whatever. How embarrassing would it be if they didn't make the playoffs? With
For them or for me?
For all of us.
I'm being smug because how embarrassing would it be? Well, it would suck because it would end their streak. But who cares about a streak? Oh, you've made the playoffs every year for your whole career.
Yeah, who
but
cares?
What
Who
have you
cares
done
about
with
that's a
it?
stupid streak. Yeah.
It really is. It really is. But maybe they need it. Maybe they need it to be like, okay, we can't just coast. We need to fight for this. But it's not too late. It's not too late. We can still fight and we can still make a push, because all they need to do is believe in each other. Even if you don't believe in Sullivan, believe in each other. Get her done.
And for the people that say maybe it's better they don't make the playoffs because they'll get Connor Bedard.
Not
no,
happening.
it's not happening.
Not a chance to happen. That's definitely not coming to Pittsburgh.
If they don't make the playoffs, they would have like a 3% chance of getting it. Maybe. Stop it.
Yeah, no.
Just stop it. There's no benefit to me.
And relying on a first round pick, it's not always, doesn't always work out. So I tanking. I'm so, I hate hearing people say that. Oh, let's tank for whoever. It's like, ew. Like,
they really should do something about that. It's a really bad look when teams don't lose on purpose, but management and ownership tries to make it so that their teams lose on purpose, and that's disgusting. That is totally against the spirit of the game.
Absolutely.
Completely.
And it bothers me even more when the fans talk about it. And it's just like, no, this is a bad luck. And the players don't want that. The players want to win. It's not fun watching a collapse of a team, but I'm hopeful. And I know you're the optimist out of the two of us here. But I am hopeful that we can go 10 wins out of the next 12 games.
There is one factor. There is one player that can make it all better, and that's Jari. If Jari gets hot, this team can recover, and this team can do better.
Or if we go on an offensive run and our big Jets, I'm like literally my nose is going to start.
Or here's a crazy idea: maybe play some defense.
Or just score all the goals. Like, just rock it. When you got that puck, you move it to the net and you put it in and you use your best shots and you give it to you just do it and make it a deficit. So it's like 10 goals and the other team's like, how do we get to that? I believe in this team. I'm a fan of this team and I believe in this team, and I want to see this team end the season. Even though I said they probably won't make the playoffs, and I mean, that's still very possible. I still know that this team can do it. Been studying this team long enough to know what they're capable of. I think they've just forgotten. And it's time to remember, remember why you're there, why they're there.
What do you think they're thinking right now, the players?
You put me on the spot here. Because I can go
just
2 different directions here. I'm thinking that they are feeling low. They're not proud of themselves. I seen a shot of Sydney on the bench last night, and he just looked so despondent. And I almost cried. I can't. They feel defeated. They don't believe in each other. They don't believe in themselves, and they feel like it's just too big of a cliff to climb at this point. But yeah, Sullivan's got to get on that, because it's not the case. There's magic on this team. I believe it.
I probably already know the answer to this, but do you watch the show Ted Lasso?
Who?
Or have you heard of it? Ted Lasso.
I don't have cable.
Okay. It is about it's a fictional story about an American football
it's in
coach.
Philadelphia.
No, it's not in Philadelphia. It's an American football coach that that became the coach of a English soccer team, and he doesn't know anything about soccer, but they all rally around him, and they all do better because they believe. Probably can't see that. He just put up a sign. He just put up a sign in the locker room, and it just said believe. That's what you need to do. You need
the power
to
of belief is probably one of the most powerful things you can do is believing. When you believe in something, it's not seeing is believing, it's believing is seeing. If you believe in yourself and each other, anything is possible. And I'm sitting here to say I believe in all of you. Yes, even Carter. Yes, even Dumoulin. And Gino, I believe that he can give us 100% for a full game. I believe.
I believe, and also there was a song from the Beatles that said the movement you need is on your shoulders.
Yeah, beauty.
We'll see.
That should be the name of this podcast.
Okay.
Believe.
I like it. I like it. I like ending on a positive note. So
I'm tired of getting angry, and it's not helping. So
there you go. Let's be positive about it.
Let's put that out into the universe that this team is capable, and they're going to go on a late march of the Penguins run.
We'll see.
Just believe.
Just believe. All right, buddy. Hey, I'll talk to you next week.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Ciao.